Hi everyone, this is Arthur. The Ant-Man trailer came out today, so I wanted to put out a little video on it. I've been a fan of the comic book since I was a little kid, a fan of the MCU since its beginning. This video will be a bit of a reaction, a bit of a breakdown, an explanation, a bit of a discussion about whatever topics are triggered by what I'm seeing. There will be some spoilers, so keep that in mind. Anyways, let's go. First off, I love how this movie starts and that it gives us some insight into what happened after Endgame. There have been a lot of shows from the MCU and movies that have given us just bits and pieces of the aftermath. They usually opt to focus on new stories rather than dwelling on the old. This is good though, because we're going to get a little bit of a meaty look at Ant-Man's life post-Endgame. He's employee of the century at Baskin-Robbins. He got fired from the Baskin-Robbins in the first movie, and the actor shaking his hand is actually the same actor who fired him. What's interesting about Ant-Man is that unlike many heroes, Ant-Man doesn't have a secret identity. Everyone knows he's Ant-Man, and now that he's one of the most visible saviors of the entire world, it seems like he's an A-list celebrity now too. It's also nice to see that his life is going so well versus Spider-Man, who is just constantly in a state of grieving post-Endgame. The sound is off for this clip, but the old guy here mistakes him for Spider-Man. Love that the humorous tone of Ant-Man and Paul Rudd is still present to some degree. So this is Cassie Lang, Scott Lang, or Ant-Man's daughter. Disney historically has tried not to recast, but this is a very clear recast. The actress's name is Kathryn Newton, and has been in quite a few things according to her IMDb page. I understand why Disney chose to recast Emma Fuhrmann, who played the original Cassie Lang in Endgame, because it was a minor role and this is a major role. Moreover, if you've been keeping up with all the Marvel shows and movies after Endgame, you know that every single member of the group known as the Young Avengers has now been introduced. In the comic books, the Young Avengers was a teenage group of superheroes that were inspired by or directly related to a member of the adult Avengers. It is almost a certainty there will be a movie or show involving the Young Avengers, but it is unclear whether they will be known as the Young Avengers, New Avengers, or just the Avengers. Unlike in the comics, people age in real life. Actors retire. So this next generation of Avengers might simply become the actual Avengers because all the actors who played the original Avengers are simply getting too old. Whatever the case, we will likely be seeing a lot of Cassie Lang in the future, so recasting her to a more established actress is actually very understandable. It's nice to see the whole core cast from the past Ant-Man movies returning. Personally, I'm looking forward to seeing more Michelle Pfeiffer, as I have not seen her in a lot of things in recent memory, and she's very memorable in a lot of roles. Scarface, the Batman Returns, it's just nice to see her again. As for Cassie building a machine that sucks them all into the quantum universe, I don't love it, but I get it. They need a trigger to start Act 2 of the story and move the plot along. I think this is certainly better and more plausible than the trigger in Spider-Man No Way Home, where Doctor Strange feels it prudent to brainwash the entire planet as a favor to a teenager, but it's still kind of dumb in that another teenager has stupidly built the equivalent of a nuclear bomb in their basement and then decides to turn it on. It's clear that this movie will be an exploration of the quantum universe, but really it's an introduction to the character of Kang. More on Kang later. In regards to the quantum universe, in the comic books, the quantum universe is basically another universe that exists at the atomic level. The quantum universe was lightly touched upon in old Ant-Man movies, but in the comics there are whole civilizations and planets and all sorts of stuff down there. It's pretty much the same as how outer space works in the MCU, but accessibility is about getting smaller rather than going upwards towards space. And here we get a glimpse of Kang the Conqueror, a character that was first introduced into the MCU in the Loki series on Disney+. In Loki, we are introduced to the idea of a multiverse, that the universe we know and live in is just one of an infinite number of parallel universes that may have small or big differences from our own universe. Multiverse of Madness explores that idea a bit more. In Loki, we are introduced to He Who Remains, otherwise known to the comic book fans as Kang the Conqueror. Kang was a scientist from Earth's future who discovered how to cross dimensions and traverse the multiverse. In the comic books, he's just a time traveler, but in the MCU, time travel and traveling across dimensions is pretty much the same thing. In Loki, we learned that this particular version of Kang had won a war against all the other versions of himself across the multiverse, and destroyed every other universe except for the present one or the current MCU. At the end of Loki, this Kang dies, and the multiverse that he kept under control is reborn, birthing a new multiverse of infinite universes and likely sparking another multiversal war between the different Kangs that reside in all these new universes. Here we see Kang in his comic book accurate attire, very cool. Ooh, Bill Murray, also very cool. It looks like Janet or the Wasp's costume is becoming more comic book accurate as well. The pixie haircut is also comic book accurate. And there's Cassie in her suit, cementing that we will be getting something Young Avengers related in the future. In the comics, Cassie has had a variety of superhero names, but I think Stature is the one that's most used and most recognizable. Most characters just call her Cassie though, so it's not like Stature gets thrown around all that often. So here I'll just let the trailer keep replaying itself as I go into Kang a bit more. In the comic books, Kang is a longtime villain of the Avengers and pretty much all powerful. He's also white, which is actually a nice change because Jonathan Majors, the actor who plays Kang, is phenomenal. I've never seen anything else he's in, but as Kang, he's perfect. And I expect some Orphan Black level of acting where he has to play multiple versions, greatly differentiated versions of Kang, and it seems like he's going to do a great job. In relation to the quantum realm, as a time traveler with complete control over time, Kang commands all technology ever developed in history. This includes Hank Pym's Pym particle, which is what allows Ant-Man to shrink and grow. In the comic books, Kang pretty much possesses every weapon ever made as well as whole armies. He summons these things at will, sometimes with time portals, but oftentimes with Ant-Man's shrinking technology, by quickly shrinking or enlarging things from his armory, which is a space that he hides at an atomic or quantum level. In practice, it looks like he's just teleporting things out of thin air when he's really just shrinking tanks or guns out of his armory, which is this massive structure at a subatomic level. So based on what we've seen in this trailer, the large city that we're exploring is likely Kang's base of operations or his actual armory. Additionally, this was hinted at near the end of the last Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and The Wasp, where if you freeze the movie at certain places, you can see a floating city in the background in the quantum universe. Also in the comics is that there was a city where Kangs from many multiple universes would actually meet and discuss stuff among themselves, and I vaguely remember that the city was actually hidden in the quantum realm, although I don't know if I'm misremembering that. Whatever the case, that seems unlikely here, as the Kang in the MCU is at war with every other Kang in the universe, in the multiverse. Furthermore, there are brief scenes of armies assembling. Combined with our knowledge that the quantum realm can be used to access other universes, this base of operations is more likely to be a staging ground for this version of Kang to invade other universes from the opposing Kangs. At the end of the video, Kang asks Scott for help, and we can only speculate what that help might be. It could perhaps be to escape the quantum realm if this Kang has somehow been imprisoned here. It could be to help pass the barriers between universes that somehow Scott is only capable of. Or it could be to help find Eliath. In Loki, he who remained defeated the other Kangs with the help of Eliath, a creature capable of consuming matter and energy. Maybe this is the domino that starts down the path of turning Kang into he who remains and who kills the rest of the multiverse. Whatever the case, Secret Wars has already been announced and confirmed, so this film will likely lead into that. For those unaware, Secret Wars is going to be like Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. It's going to be the end goal of this phase of Marvel movies. In the comic books, Secret Wars was a somewhat fourth wall breaking comic book where they took all the heroes and villains and they were taken by this powerful being known as the Beyonder, and they placed them on a planet to do battle with one another, which is pretty much, what fans wanted to see. They wanted to see who was stronger, so they made Spider-Man fight this guy and made Fantastic Four fight this guy, and the X-Men were there. It's unclear whether the MCU Secret Wars will be comic book accurate or deviate the way Endgame did with Thanos and Endgame and Infinity War. My best guess is that Kang will replace the Beyonder in the Secret War story, gather various versions of Marvel superheroes from across the universe to battle one another for the survival of their universe. What that could also mean is that we might get to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man again, Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man again, or Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. My best guess is that the MCU will take a page out of DC Comics' Crisis of Infinite Earths event and smash all these different variant franchises into one coherent mishmash universe that will explain how the X-Men will be getting into the MCU. Anyways, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. If you like what you've seen here, please like, comment, and subscribe.